On my first ever backpacking trip, I realized that I was totally unprepared. I was out of water, afraid I was going to bail early, but at the same time, it was one of the best outdoor experiences I've had in my whole entire life. What's up, you guys? I'm Brian. This is Brian Uncharted, and I just got back from my first ever backpacking trip at the Shawnee National Forest Garden of the Gods. I spent about 3 days out there in the Garden of the Gods wilderness, and I wanted to make this video to break down all the things that had happened, to discuss the things that I did right in preparing for my first backpacking trip, and also to discuss the things that I did wrong so that you don't have to. If you're looking for getting out there into the backcountry for a backpacking trip, this is the place for you, especially if you can learn from my mistakes so that you don't have the same experiences that I do. You can have a much better and more full story. So to break down the whole entire trip, I planned a 3-day, 2-night backpacking trip to the Garden of the Gods wilderness, with the first day just hiking roughly 3 miles in. I knew I was going to get there in mid to late afternoon, and from there I knew I could probably easily get 3 miles in. It would give me plenty of time to set up camp and to get everything in order in preparation for the next day, to which the next day on day 2 was the big exciting day, because it was the day to go get to see all the views, the bluffs, and to hike the last several miles, and it would be a longer hike on that day. It was everything that you would want on that second day to be a backpacking trip. And then to come back to a campsite relatively close to the car, a couple miles away from the car, to then wake up early the next morning and head on out and get on going with the rest of the weekend. But while I was out there, I really did learn a couple of things, as this was my first backpacking trip that I've done, and it was also a backpacking trip that I did alone. And so there were a couple things that I wanted to start off with, the things that I did right. One of the first things I did right was the preparation of food. I knew right away that I was going to need plenty of calories. I did that research there and knew I needed to keep some kind of way to keep the calories up and keep carbohydrates in my system. And so with that, I prepared a lot of bars, protein bars, Rice Krispie treats, breakfast bars, anything that I knew that could sustain me for the day and be somewhat filling. Those were the things I was planning for snacks, for ease of eating when I got bored, right? Sitting at camp. But in addition to all those bars, I also brought some mountaineering food as well, those simple add water meals, and just kind of make them up as you go. And those worked out really well, especially in the evenings when I was done hiking, really setting up camp for the day. And I probably brought more food than what I actually was really going to be eating. It really was too much hot food to be prepared. Even though I brought breakfast, lunch, and dinner, one big meal for each of those 3 main meals, but in reality, I didn't really eat much during the day, and I just really ate in the evening. The protein bars, the Rice Krispie treats, and the other snacks just filled the gap there for the morning, going into the afternoon, and I never really felt as though I was hungry. Yeah, there were times where it's like, yeah, I could eat, but I was not all that hungry to eat a sit down, pull out the fuel, pull out all my food, and cook something. So having just 1 meal a day, particularly in the evening, knowing that it's going to be a substantial meal, was probably more than enough to prepare me for food on the week. Just having 1 meal a day would have been plenty enough, instead of having 3 meals planned for each day plus dessert. I thought I was going to eat way more than what I did, and I didn't. But nonetheless, that's the way things go. But I still planned the food sufficiently because I did not run out, nor was I hungry. So it was really a great planning on that end. The second thing that I did right, that I did not expect to go right, was the use of trekking poles. I bought some trekking poles because I heard that hikers use trekking poles. I wasn't quite sure if I would actually use them. I figured I would use them more like a selfie stick for things like that, for taking pictures and videos and things, which I did use them for that. But when it came to the hiking part, they were really great for, especially for hiking uphill. I was able to move so much faster uphill, especially in times when I was getting tired. I did not have to rely on my legs and knees as much to get up that hill. And they really did provide a lot more support. There were multiple times where I nearly fell down straight on my face, and those trekking poles really did provide the stability to where I did not fall, nor did I roll my ankle. So that was one of the greatest things I invested in, having 2 trekking poles. I used one on the first day, and that was substantial enough, but when I brought both of them out, wow, I felt like I was moving. It was just phenomenal. It was almost like I was sprinting because I was going so fast. Even though it was a little bit awkward at first to use them, once you get into a rhythm, it was completely easy to use them. And they were really helpful for knocking down spider webs, especially in those early morning hours hiking when nobody else has blazed the trail and knocked those spider webs down for you. They were really, really useful. Definitely something I planned out right there. The last thing I think I really did right was the overall trip length. It was 2 nights, 3 days, technically, and it wasn't even a full 3 days, right? It was just an afternoon, a full day, and a couple hours in the morning. And so that was really just the right amount of time. It was enough to get my feet wet. Nothing was too strenuous. I was not stretched out thin. It was real easy. I had planned for each day, and each day went about as smoothly as it could have gone, given all the other circumstances, of which we'll talk about now. Because the other circumstances were all the things that did not go quite according to plan. The first and foremost thing that did not go according to plan was I prepared for ticks. I did not prepare for poison ivy. And there was a lot of poison ivy out there on a spring trail, which should have registered, hey, there's going to be poison ivy out in the wilderness. Should be duh, right? But no, not for me. I did not plan at all for poison ivy, even though I did have the right lotions and things like that. I had Benadryl to help mitigate any symptoms if I were to catch anything. I did not get a rash, thank goodness. But it was something that kind of stressed me out, especially as I noticed it coming in on that first day. I did not plan for poison ivy at all. And if I planned it a little bit better, I may have brought like an additional trash bag or an additional bag to just bag my clothes in while I changed into something else for the evening. That would have really helped. Same with putting the shoes somewhere better than just right there on the inside of my tent. It kind of made me nervous. But here I am after the backpacking trip, no poison ivy, it all worked out. I did my best. Once I noticed that it was there, I did my best to try to stay out of it. No harm, no foul, at least as it came to the poison ivy. What did come to harm and foul was the fact that I did not prepare enough water. I needed more water. I thought I would have far more opportunities to pull water from the wilderness than what I actually did. And so I came in on the first day with 2 liters of bottles of water plus a water filter. And as I was coming in, I wasn't even thinking about water at all. I was just thinking, hey, let's get to the campsite. I was feeling good. I was moving fast. And all of a sudden I get to the end of that night between washing my ankles off with a little bit of water to make sure that I did not have any poison ivy on my ankles. And after cooking my nightly food that day, I realized that I was very short water. I had less than a half liter left to make it up for the second day, going into the second day. And I was generally thinking that I was going to find some kind of stream or puddle or a little pond where I'd be able to pull something from, but I did not check the weather reports at all. Everything was dry. I just did not plan that out right at all. And so I was very embarrassed to be able to get to the recreational center of the Garden of the Gods. And even there, I figured that there would be water available there with the water pumps there or some kind of water fountain or something. No, there was none of that. Not at all. I had to resort to asking somebody for water, which was so embarrassing. But thank you to the lady who gave me some water, let me fill up my 2 water bottles. That got me through the rest of my trip. I used that water very sparingly. Even though I was a little dehydrated that second day, it got me through that day and that night without any major trouble. If I were to plan this out differently, I would definitely look at the trail reports. I would be looking at the weather in the days leading up to the trip to see if there was any rainfall or anything like that in the area. Because when I got there, there was nothing, at least not on the paths that I walked. I mostly stayed on the river to river trail, but everything was dry and my planning was not good. But with that all being said, with the water situation being what it was, it kind of put a damper on my hiking experience and backpacking experience. I ended up being concerned about the water situation that I cut my hiking short because I hiked back to a campsite out in the wilderness area, and that was about a 2 to 3 mile hike or so, and I hiked all that back. I got there so early in the afternoon that I just made the best of the situation. I was hoping to be able to hike more. There was more hiking and sites that I wanted to see, but because I wasn't familiar with the trails, because I was short water, I decided not to push myself more than what I needed to get through the trip. And so I just hiked back to the campsite that I wanted to, right next to where I was the night before. And it had a great view. I was able to get a good nap in and observe the birds and still just enjoy the campgrounds and just nature and the views. It didn't ruin my trip, but it did put a damper on the things that I had planned. And perhaps if I was able to venture out into those other areas that I had planned, perhaps I may have found some water over in those parts. But there was nothing guaranteed, and I did not think that it was prudent, given my situation, to hike further than what I needed to. So a couple of key lessons just to wrap it all up is, number one, water is everything. Don't assume anything and know your sources. Look at those maps, look at the reports, figure out, people who have been out on the trail in the days leading up to your trip, what the water situation is there. That way you go in having a plan and you don't have to do what I did, which was asking people for help. Again, that was so embarrassing, and I am so sorry for everybody that I asked, but thank you to the lady, Good Samaritan, thank you. The second takeaway is, don't prepare for problems, prepare to prevent them. And again, this just comes right down to planning, making sure that you are prepared for the situations that you plan to encounter, and don't get yourself in situations that you're just not ready for. I was in a situation where I was not ready for poison ivy, and I was not ready for water shortages, and it really put me in a pickle, but nonetheless, we got through it. Lesson learned. And kind of the third takeaway here is that you don't need to have the perfect trip in order to have a great time. Get out there, get outdoors, embrace the adventure, enjoy the hike, enjoy everything that comes along with whatever situation you find yourself in, because at the end of the day, everything that you need is really going to be there. So long as you've done enough planning, so long as you've done enough preparation, the preparation doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be enough to get you through. So for my first backpacking trip, I learned a lot, I made a lot of mistakes, and honestly, I had a great time doing it. I do plan on making another trip to the Garden of the Gods at some point in the future. I'm not sure when, but one thing is for sure is I will be more prepared next time. So if you're thinking about going backpacking, and especially if you're planning on going solo, hopefully this helps you. Hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that I made. Hopefully you've learned from my mistakes and that this inspires you to just get out there. Go have the adventure, enjoy the trail, enjoy the hike, enjoy being outdoors. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.